Hello everyone. Now that you've watched my brief overview of, my philosophy on how I use cell phones and tablets in the classroom, I want to look at one of the most, engaging ways to use those cell phones or tablets in the classroom is with live student polling. And now there's many apps out there that actually do this, obviously, but my favorite, I think one of the most versatile, is something called Poll Everywhere. This is the login screen, and it's not really hard to actually create an account quickly if you actually want to do this. And there's a nice little overview of how you can do this. This is actually used a lot in a business, certainly, and conferences and so forth. You can take a tour, and there's plans and there's pricing. I don't want to get all into that. I'll talk about the free version that I use mostly in a moment here. But this is a great tool to actually explore. So once you actually create an account, it takes you to the My Polls page, and it's pretty easy to kind of navigate. Once you create a poll, this list sort of appears here of all the polls that you've created. Okay. You can also group your polls. So say you want to organize them into like a better, sort of topical organization. You can sort of just check on a box, right? And then you just press the little group button here. Make it a little bigger so you guys can actually see this. Okay. Press group. And all of a sudden now, what's going to happen is at the very, very bottom of your list of all my polls that I use, now this is all grouped, okay, into one aspect. And then you can kind of edit that group and give it a name. I'm just going to call it test group because I won't keep it for later. Save it, and you're pretty much good to go. So it's very easy to actually create a poll and group it. So let's talk about creating a poll and sort of the options that are there for you. You press create here, and all of a sudden now this is the simple box that comes up. And now you would type in this box, and then you just ask a question. I don't know. What is your favorite tech tool? Okay, cool. So we'll actually use that one. And now you have like the choice. You can do a multiple choice or a true false. You can also add an image file. If you want to sort of add something sort of for elementary grades, certainly for sciences, for social studies, anything, even for math, like an equation or a formula. And now you can sort of add that as multiple choice or a true false. You can add answers, and now it's more of a ABC. You can add an image, which is really great. So you can really do a lot with this. Even think about adding a URL. We actually had to explore different URLs and pick which one, whatever related, is awesome. Or you can do an open-ended question, in which really open-ended, they give you all these great options for setting up how it will appear. The text wall, just the answers will come up one at a time from your students. A word cloud, it will sort of obviously analyze the how many times a particular word or phrase is repeated. When I use this particular one, I tell students to only text in one word, or maybe a two-word phrase with an underscore between the two words, so it sees it as only one word. Sort of cluster or a ticker will sort of kind of scroll through kind of like the bottom of a newsfeed ticker, like a Fox or CNN news ticker, right? So it's kind of neat. Brainstorming is kind of new, and they just added this. That's why I wanted to update my videos. You can pose a question, and then your audience can kind of rank how they feel about the different answers. They can kind of vote on which answers they sort of like. And same thing with like brainstorming, right? You can kind of see all your ideas at once on a wall. Kind of neat. You really, for brainstorming for a class, it's always a popular activity for any discipline. This new one is actually a beta. This kind of ranking your audience. You can kind of put ideas in order here, and your audience can rank the answers in order. So that's awesome for opinion aspects or anything in any sort of class. And honestly, this is brand new, and I haven't had a chance to actually play with it. But you can actually upload an image, and then your audience can respond by clicking anywhere on the image. So that's sort of a neat thing to sort of investigate. So again, so many possibilities here. So we create our first poll. We'll make it open-ended. Give it text wall. We press create. Makes a funny little noise once it creates the poll, and we should be good to go. And here it is. Now you see some options here. When I created my account, I created a keyword, Dr. Kalik, for my students. So students have multiple opportunities to respond. For some, the easiest way for them would actually just be using their texting plan. So in the to box, You're going to send a message to somebody. That would be the 5 digits that they would use. It's always the same one, 37607. So the student's going to kind of add that as their poll everywhere contact. And then in the message box, they would type my name, Dr. Kotlik, space, and then their response. It would appear automatically. Okay. If I push the poll out to devices, I can do this. And now if students can go to the web browser, all they do is type in pollev.com/Dr. Kotlik. Let me just bring up in a new tab so you can kind of see how that looks. All right, I put that in there, and now this is the way they would see it. Now, it's kind of cool that I showed you this. Okay, there it is, right? They enter their response, and they press submit. Now, what's kind of nice about Poll Everywhere, it's versatile for all different devices. If you have students in a computer lab, or if you have like a laptop or a Chromebook cart in your room, they could use the web browser to actually do this. Super easy. If they have their phones, they can go to their web browser on their phone or their tablet, or they can go after it that way. So that's my favorite tech tool. I'll say Poll Every, sorry, I can't type, where. Yay, I press submit, awesome. Go back to my Poll Everywhere, look at that, immediately comes up, yay. All right, so that's super awesome. Now, also what's really nice is that they've also added apps, iOS and Android, and it's really nice. All they do is have to put your name in, and the app, boom, they can just type it right on the app. App works great, okay? So that's kind of like your basic poll. So many ideas here. I use this all the time, and I'll show you some examples in a moment here to begin class discussions. If they're reading a certain passage or a certain text, I might ask them to put examples on the screen from the actual passage. I can have them summarize the historian's argument, because I'm a social studies teacher, certainly. Again, I presented this many times to faculties, whether it be math faculty, science faculty. You can really find a great use for this, and the students really like using their phones and their devices in class. Now, I know what the questions are going to be. Well, what happens if they misuse it? What happens if they text somebody while they're doing this? Well, yeah, they might text their friend, in between polls. And again, my answer is, so what? Is that really the end of the world? No. What I usually do, again, as I said in my opening presentation, when they're done with the activity, put that phone in the upper right-hand corner of your desk, fine. Honestly, if I have seniors, I kind of give them a little more latitude, and if they want to check their Twitter feed while in between polls and they're waiting for someone, I don't really have a problem with that, because I know they're going to do that in a college classroom, and they need to understand how to use technology appropriately and when it's appropriate, and when to disengage from social media. So that's fine. So that's something that I don't have a big problem with. As of right now, I'm still using the free version, and in the past I've used the paid version, about $50 per year, where now students register their devices, which means that you actually have a record of who texts what. And it's really nice because you could download it as a spreadsheet by students' names, and now you can actually take this as a grade, as a real formative assessment. As of now, I just use it mostly for in-class discussion and to spark other ideas. But I am tempted this year, because I feel like I'm using it already a lot this year, and it'd be kind of nice maybe to go back to that paid version if I can certainly get my principal to pay for it, or I guess I could fork up the $50 myself, but sometimes you don't want to do that, right? So that's kind of the way it actually works. Now you have some more options here. You can hide the text wall, which means that you really don't know what's being responded to until everybody's done. That's kind of nice, which means that you can kind of and it gives you this nice little kind of overview of how it should look on your device, which is kind of nice. So maybe you don't want people to see the responses until all the responses are actually up. Okay. You might want to lock the poll. You could certainly, so no one can respond again. You might want to clear your results, which I've done before. And this is really nice, full screen. So now you can kind of, see it in a large screen. This looks great on a smartboard, because if on a smartboard, if you now click on this, it becomes big. So as you have multiple responses coming up, you want to sort of highlight one response. It becomes larger than the other responses, which is really nice. And your controls are still here, and you can sort of now play around with, you want it to be a cluster, or you want it to be a ticker. It kind of, I guess it goes down the thing. You can sort of see how it comes up, Poll Everywhere. All right, which is kind of neat. All right, and for a lot of us, we have to post our objectives on the board. This is actually an easy way. Maybe make an objective poll. Don't let the students respond to it. Keep it closed, and you put up your objective here on the board, right? So now as they come in, they see kind of the goals for the day. That's it's kind of neat, and you can change the speed of it. You can change the fonts. You can change the color scheme of it, the background. You know, you can really play around with a lot of, you know, you want to show the results, the number of results that are being shown. Again, you really can play around with this and really kind of make it unique to what you want to do with it, which is pretty nice. Okay, so let me kind of get out of this. All right, let me show you some of the other polls that I've done, and I'll give you an example of stuff that I've, like here, we'll go down the line here. I have some of them I use for quizzes, things of that nature. For debates, I've used this for. A lot of it's for mostly reading and text analysis. Like Bradley, I teach a wonderful course on American military history, and our students read a book. Whoops, don't want to do that. Our students read a book called Flags of Our Fathers. So what was your overall impression of the book, strengths of the book, things of that nature, so they can kind of click on that. And you know, you'll see like their responses come up. You know, this is great. You know, all their kind of ideas. This is how you would see it as the class actually texted it in. I know that poll is that old, 3 years ago. I think I did a more recent one from last year. Must be the wrong poll. Okay, cool. And I'll go back to the polls here a little bit. And I'll show you something that we actually just did in class. Okay, I have my Civil War class read part of Frederick Douglass's narrative about slavery, and I divide the class up into groups where they each read a chapter, and then they have to actually text in their notes or quotes from the chapters to kind of spur class discussion. Now here's how I've done this. We actually use Schoology in our school, not Edmodo, I know. And so here on Schoology, it's similar to Edmodo, Frederick Douglass activity, where I did an introduction to the activity, kind of the goals for the activity, things of that nature, what they actually had to do for the activity. Whoops, I went too far, sorry. And here the chapters are right here. We watched a couple little videos on his narrative, but then they clicked on this link to Poll Everywhere. And what came up is I embedded it right in Schoology, that if they had chapter 1, they write their responses here. Chapter 2, they had 4, 5, or 6 at the very end, then you click submit your responses. So now in class, actually, believe it or not, today, we were doing this, when I made this today, I'm making the video at the exact same time, we started to kind of go through these. So it came up kind of odd. I don't know if it's the visual settings. Oh, text wall, that's the reason why it came up kind of weird. We were wondering about that. So there's their quote, see, 5 hours ago. So I use this, right? Here's a great example of that. But now I can go to the next poll, right, and let me just change the visual. That's the reason why it looks all weird. Okay. And that was their quote. So, you know, bam, right? So now we're going through this one chapter at a time, and we're seeing this, you know, and they're reading this to the class, and they're looking at the notes, and now we're kind of having this great discussion about it. And then at the very end, I had them kind of all do sort of their reaction to the poll. Now, how did I do this? Let me show you this. I'll go back to my polls, and what I did, let me go back here. Hope I'm not going too fast for you. A lot of clicking over and over everywhere. I made each of these individual polls open-ended questions. I grouped them, called it Douglass Narrative. Now, once you group them, you get this survey view. If you click on this link, it gives you this. And this is a unique URL. And I just copied this URL and I shared it with my students, which was really kind of nice. Okay. Now, let me actually get out of there, because I was playing around with this. I'm thinking, well, yeah, I like the survey view, but I really kind of wanted it right embedded in my feed here for my class, you know, so you can actually, you know, take a poll, and if you do that, I believe this will work, because I just kind of got lucky with this the other day. You can see everybody's responses here. There's some analytics that you can kind of get from it. Okay, let me go back here. Sorry for the delay. Okay, so if I click on one of my polls and I go to more, that's what it was. I go down here. Response settings, that wasn't it. Present, so sorry. If I go to share, okay, now you have other ways to share it with your students. You give them a link to the survey, shareable response link, or live response link, or embed the poll. And I just did the embedding, which gives you this great sort of like embed code, all right, that then I then put in each one individually in there, so it can be on Schoology as an embedded on the page. So I know I'm doing a lot here. So you got these things you can configure, how people can respond, your response setting. You can schedule and unlock times for it to like shut down. So you can really play with this. You can test out how it looks and so forth like that. Text message is how it looks here. Okay. And then you have this great present feature, which gives you a ton of ways to present it. I don't want to get too much into it, but you can also download your poll as a slide, okay, which is really nice. And you can make it into a PowerPoint slide, a Pages slide deck, even a Google slide deck. You can embed them right into your particular, presentation. So there's just so many options here to actually play with and have some fun with as you do this. So I think it's a great tool. Okay, now let's have some fun and let's try that other clickable image. So let's create a new poll. I'm just going to have a test question because it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go clickable image. I'm going to upload an image to get started. This is a very famous picture of 3 prisoners at Gettysburg. The image uploads it. Your audience can click anywhere on the image. To track click counts in an area, you can kind of define regions. So you might say, okay, let's define this guy. Move it around a little bit. Good. Let's define this guy. Guess I can't get them all in. Is there something significant here? I guess you could, you really have some fun with this. And obviously, I'm just doing it for the very first time. But you can kind of define these, and then you just create. And now there's your poll. Now, I'm going to make the poll active, and let me just refresh that other browser. You can respond one time. So I don't really see where they click on it, but they could drop a pin somewhere. Well, that's really kind of neat. Again, this is kind of on the fly. I apologize. So just kind of want to see it. So I guess they could pin somewhere they think is significant. And if I go back to the poll itself, it shows that someone pinned it right there. There's one area. So you can define the area, but your audience can place a pin anywhere. So I guess there's some ways to think about how you might use that, and that's kind of fun. All right, well, that's Poll Everywhere. I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you'll take some time and use it with your own students. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thank you.